So thank you all for being here, and turn it over to you, Rose. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I want to start off, first of all, I'll be using my time somewhat in a raw manner. I haven't exactly done this presentation for this type of environment. This was actually a presentation I prepared for my college class last semester, around the time of the election, and when political environment was a lot more vulnerable, and people had very high opinions on who was getting elected. Different things going around in society as far as race relations, a lot of things that we've covered in these presentations so far. And I feel very privileged to be here, because these have been some of the most amazing presentations I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of it, to just listen, to just be in the midst of so many people who I believe are very intellectual, who are very accomplished, things that I want to strive to be one day. And it's definitely I'm definitely out of my element. And I'll tell you, the first thing that I noticed when I came here and saw everybody, uh, surprisingly to some, was not the age difference at all. It was actually how well spoken everyone was, how they knew precisely what they wanted to get at. They knew they had so much research done in different fields, and to me that was very outstanding. And these are things that I've always had interest in, because growing up, I didn't exactly come from a necessarily educated family. I'm actually the first person, or one of the first person in my family to go to college. Um, but I was always interested in learning things. I was always reading. I was always interested in people who I felt like had a lot of knowledge that they could give to me. And though my family wasn't able to give me of much, academia, but they were able to install in me the want to go out and just find things to research or get into. So this is something that I'm very interested in. And we've seen things such as art that I thought was just amazing. We've seen things from we talked about the insurrection. We talked about global warming. We've talked about race relations, and we have another very good presentation coming up that I'm very interested in hearing about, from artificial technology. So that's a little bit about me. And my like I said, my presentation is going to be very raw, because I at first I of course made it for a class, so it had like key things I was meant to address in the presentation, which I will not be addressing in the same way, because I'm going to be more so focusing on the interest behind why I made the presentation to begin with. And I'll go ahead and share my screen now. You have to tell me if you can see everything clearly, because I'm not too familiar with sharing my screen. Not the best with technology. Are you able to see this?
Looks great.
Yeah, that's showing up the slide that says politics in college.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and address a few of my own biases before this that might be relevant to some of the research that I've done, because I tried to be very neutral in my approach, and this was just a very streamlined research project. I did a simple survey where I took the survey, I took the feedback from everybody, and I did calculations with a Pearson correlation, and we looked at if it was significant as far as the findings that we were looking for. And I didn't do this to make any conclusions or do anything like that. This was simply just observations that I made, and I tried to see if I could see any correlation between political affiliations and the news that people preferred. I'm not sure if anyone here is familiar with my professor, Lauren Seifert. She's actually the one who offered me this opportunity and told me it might be a good idea for me to apply. And I didn't have much knowledge on the whole setup of this. I'm not the most familiar with Quakers in general. In fact, my initial um, my initial entrance into what the Quakers was about and everything like that. Although I do go to Malone University, was founded upon a Quaker university, but they've definitely strived a little bit away from the how Quakers go about their their church service, where they have the clerk, and they have different, and it's more of like more of a collaborative uh, attempt at looking for Christ. But she told me to apply, and so it's definitely been interesting seeing how you guys go about research. But and like I said, I don't know if anyone's familiar with her, but once I applied and I went upon my research, or looking at how I was going to present this, and then that's when I realized it might be a good idea to do it more raw and just go about how I'm interested in this. So so my main interest that made me start looking more into politics, because growing up I wasn't necessarily interested in politics whatsoever. Um, but once people once politics became so ingrained in society, it seemed like anything you looked at had politics, from sports to the news we watched every day, and people had very clear biases towards what direction they were leaning towards. That's when I became more and more interested in people's feelings, and how powerful that these could be, specifically news, of course, which is what I ended up studying in my research. And these are all the different things I had to do for my class, which were I had to talk about my research orientation. I had to talk about the different sources that I use, and I had to talk about a lot of the different things to help me in my research along the way. And my main research question is the news that people consume, specifically college age students, was it what did it influence their political alignment? And my main reason for asking this question specifically is because if I could come to see any correlation between the news people consumed and their political leanings, then after that you could make an argument as far as if news can influence how people think, how people act. Say we use Fox as the conservative media, then if people are consuming so much Fox, and that's what they allow into them, then would that then make them lean more towards being Republican or being a certain way, versus CNN, which we coded as being a Democratic or a liberal leaning media? Would that then in turn influence them to be more so in that political leaning? And like I said, I used a simple research survey, and I sent out the survey to about 100 people. I got about 80 responses, and with that survey, I took all the feedback that I got, and people told me about their news, the preferred news outlets, um, their political leanings, and I even had a few questions in there that they can give me responses on, as far as why they chose this, and what do they believe they're receiving when they're getting the news that they intake. And this is a breakdown of the ages that of the people that did respond. So it was very much focused from the 18 to 22 range, with a few responses here and there from people of a variety of ages older than that. And this is a breakdown of the different nationalities and races and things of that nature, and their year in college. And these are significant because this shows that a few of the limitations that I did come across when I did my survey, I wasn't able to specifically send it out to make it more even or equal across the board. There's obviously I'm in Canton, Ohio, so it's more so. It's pretty centered around white people, and there wasn't as much of a mix as I wanted to really get a good idea of how different people of different nationalities might have answered these questions. And of the breakdown, there were 56 people that responded, 23 male and 29 females. So I did fortunately get a good mix of males and females that answered the questions. And this goes across the different safeguards that I went to, as far as explaining that this would be that their names and everything wouldn't be involved in this, and that this is a completely voluntary survey. And in the Pearson correlation, as I expected, there were the people who consumed what we coded as liberal media, tended to be Democrats, and they tended to, consume CNN, things of that nature. And people who consumed more conservative media, they tended to be Republicans. And this was a breakdown of the Pearson correlation that I did, which had a significant p-value. And this goes on to the discussion of this aligning with my hypothesis, which I wasn't surprised at all, obviously, as this aligned with my hypothesis, but I was more so disappointed because I didn't actually get a chance to get as much feedback from a variety of different groups as I wanted, because the main reason that I was so interested in doing research in this, although this is a very base model of research, which I wanted to expand on in the future, but I didn't get a chance to get as much feedback from different groups, which is something that which if I ever do go on to further my research in this field, then I would do different groups, and I would make sure to have a variety of different questions that could give me a better idea of their reason. Some questions that really were of interest to me is, do the current political leanings of the child between the ages of 18 and 22, does it align with their parents, or have they deviated away from the things that they were grown into? Which I believe a few research that I've stumbled upon do somewhat tell of people my age kind of deviating away from their parents, and then as they get older, getting back into their roots. So I'm definitely curious of a lot of those different type of things. So this is very much just, like I said, raw. This research that I did for a class. I wasn't exactly prepared for all the things that you guys have been able to offer in every presentation, especially the last one that we've had. But this is why I'm at currently. I'm seeking to further my education. I'm seeking to go to grad school to be a professor, and so I'm taking the steps to get there. And yeah, I'm just happy that I was able to be here. And that's all I have to share. This goes on to my limitations references. And I thank you for giving me the time and entertaining me.
So much for sharing what you learned, and what your motivation was, and what what your interests were in doing something like this. Yeah, giving their little quiet applause there.